Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of Jacob's Ladder. As always, I am your host, Jacob Israel, and I hope that you're buckled up for this one. I was up all night because of the news, because of the feud between Dark MAGA and MAGA. This is what it seems like everyone is talking about right now. This is all the buzz. But there's a little more to the story than you've been told. And it's a story that needs to be heard through a biblical lens. There were signs, after all. There were signs. And I can't help but say hello to all of you that are here already. And I'm hoping that you all can hear me okay. Do me a favor in the live chat and let me know if that is the case, because we have such deep waters to get into today. It's a scary and a strange time to be alive. And this latest, some people are calling a psyop, but I got to tell you something. The storm has arrived, as Christendom Defender is saying in the live chat. And by the way, thank you for coming. Will you do me a favor? Will you just hit the like button right now? Tells more people that they should probably check the show out, get a little involved, get a little thrilled because of the things we're about to dive into. It's going to get deep. It's going to get deep. Take a look at the thumbnail for a second. Look in the background there. That's The Economist magazine. You're probably wondering why Trump is actually missing from the cover. Well, that's a video I did a little while ago. A little while ago. I don't think people realize the implications of what's happening right now. I know Stephen Ezel does. Thank you so much for the super chat, brother, by the way. If you want truly free home, that's the guy. You can thank him for all the products. And if you want to support the channel, use code Jacob. The links are in the description of the video. We're going to need to support American. That's going to be a thing going forward. But let me start with the day, because it got a little freaky and it got a little weird. I started the morning with one of my strange little posts that I put out on X. I said T-minus 2 hours and 22 minutes until the next psyop drops. I made a little joke there because I found it interesting that I would say such a thing, but I really felt like something was going to go down. The reason that I said 222, on the show, Dan Neal always is telling me, stay away from the numbers. 22 in the Hebrew alphabet is the Tav. This is what God uses to seal off us. The 22. It's a mark. It's kind of an important number, and it's become something on the channel just like 1111. So that being said, I thought it would be funny to just put a little 222 humor out there for those that are in the know, that have been subscribed to the channel, have been supporting like Frogs Worldly has. Thank you for the super chat. Things are definitely croaking, as said in the live chat. Things are definitely croaking. I didn't know that the news would be as big as this. Now, for somebody that has talked about Trump and Musk for so long, I believe I was probably the very first person to say that the two of them would come together in a video I did long before when he was still a Democrat. Well, I've also been saying that I had a feeling that there was a rift and that we would be seeing something falling apart. I had a vibe that perhaps someone in the Trump party, very close to Trump, would end up somehow kind of like betraying him. Like pull a Judas, if you will. All of this is going to make sense, and it's going to really freak you out, as it did me, because I feel like we're at a moment right now that like things need to shift in the right direction. We need to see this through the lens of faith, and we need to put our prayers out there that they resolve this peacefully, that they make peace with each other, because no good is going to come from this. There's already rumors swirling that Russia's getting involved and is offering safe harbor safe harbor, as if the guy's being tracked down. Listen, the two of them, they had a spat. They're both very powerful people. You know, maybe egos were hurt. Things went down that we're not aware of, but it got ugly very, very fast. It was definitely something that I took notice of because I was already waiting for some kind of crazy news to hit T-, the Trumpster. And then what happens? We get the big bomb that was dropped. The big bomb that was dropped was pretty bad. You know, I mean, it's about as bad as it can get, but it's nothing new. This is nothing that we didn't know before. We knew that there was connections there. We knew that he flew on the plane, all of this stuff. But to say something like that, you give the impression that you're in the know, okay? And maybe he is, right? Maybe he is, but we don't really know because when it comes to politics, they're all kind of, you know, liars. And this is a world of lies, so you don't really know what to believe or who to believe, but you have to listen to that little small voice inside of your head and say, what's more, you know, what's more likely? What's more likely to me is that God is doing something here. Now, why do I think this? Okay, so he drops the really big bomb and then says, have a nice day. And then, of course, Donald Trump reacted in such a way, and I'm just going to give you the background just in case you don't know, there's a huge spat between the two of them, and it is, well, pitting MAGA versus MAGA. But really not just MAGA, but dark MAGA versus MAGA, which we know the word MAGA, it means wizard, sorcery, you know, because the Magi were the ones that went to Jesus, right? So it doesn't have to be like a bad thing. In fact, when Elon Musk and Donald Trump got together for the first time, dark MAGA and MAGA coming together for the first time, I was watching Amazon Prime, and the dark wizard and Gandalf came together, like the white wizard and the dark wizard. It was just strange. Moses dealt with wizards. The rod that God gave him, the one that budded, Aaron's rod, well, it ate the snakes up. I think this show is going to eat some snakes up too. And we're going to hope that the world is left better because of it. Because if you remember correctly, sometimes world leaders, when things go south, when plagues come, when things get ugly, what happens is the leaders, well, they will look out for the people that are serving God, just like they did with Joseph. But Donald Trump said, and he made it very clear, the easiest ways to save money in the budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate the government contracts that they have with Elon. Then he went on to say Elon was wearing thin. In other words, he was annoying him. I asked him to leave, took away his EV mandates that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted. And the two of them are going back and forth, and everybody's discounting everybody else's testimony. Whatever they're saying, they're always saying, oh, it's not true. And fact checkers are checking fact checkers. But let's put all that aside, okay? Because today is an important day. I don't know if you do know that today is the, it's the anniversary of D-Day. It's when we stormed Normandy. Do you know what else today is? Not just D-Day. This is also Eid. Eid Mubarak, for those of you that celebrate. It is known as the Festival of Sacrifice. It's about Abraham sacrificing Isaac. That's the holiday that's going down. Tomorrow, I believe, is the big day. They even had off from school. So you have D-Day happening after D-Day is happening. We see the Democrats are very excited about the whole thing. They feel like it's Democrat Day. All of them are very, very excited about this. Even Bernie Sanders is going out of his way and supporting Elon's views and certain things. Who saw this coming? Who saw the two of them falling apart? This guy did. I had vibes. For a while ago. There were signs, as they say. Signs. But the bromance is broken up. That's the New York Post. And if you look to the right of the New York Post today, you'll see that was the last live stream that I did where I said, you're about to find out that it's over between the two of them. And it's ironic because he had just given him the key. You know, the keys to the White House. Gave him the keys Reminded me of a story from the book of Esther, King Ahasuerus. I like to call him Xerxes. I like to think of him as Xerxes from the movie 300. Well, he had a person that he put in charge who had a big time issue with the Jews. He did, ironically. Gave him the keys of the kingdom. And then what ended up happening is the very gallows that the man that was put in charge by the king that he built was what ended up hanging him on it. This is a prophetic story playing out, and it's one that we need to take notice of. You'll see even the Democrats, they put this out, kill the bill, and release the Epstein files. Anna Nicole Wordsmith on X, who puts out some very, very cool stuff. You should check her stuff out. She did a whole thing about, what's a bill and the bill and the bill. I say in the end, everybody's got to pay the bill. You know what I mean? There's a debt that needs to be paid. It's going to be paid one way or another. It's going to be paid, and that's what we need to remember today. That no one gets out of this alive. There's a purpose and a plan, and God's in charge of it all. So this is wild. Let's take this step at a time before I start to wow you. Now that we got a lot of people watching, do me a favor, smash the like. Let's get some more people in here. I know that it is Friday. Friday is a good day. We should be expecting Danielle to give me a call and interrupt the show. She usually does this on her way home. She forgets that I'm live. A lot of people do in the house, which is okay. I love it. I love them. So he put out this thing about how he's connected to this monster. Now, ironically, everybody was quick to then say, oh, well, you're connected to a monster too, Elon. Now, ironically, Elon has cleared this up for those of you that, probably have seen this information going around. That was at a shoot for Vanity Fair at a party many, many years ago. And I guess she photobombed him. He says he doesn't know her. He's never been around her. He's got no connections to her. Now, that on the other hand, Donald Trump, our president, who I believe God placed where he's supposed to be, like God places everybody where he's supposed to be. Our president, well, when she was arrested, this monster, he wished her well. That doesn't really bode well if you think about it. These are not the nicest things that you want to, you want to say when there are a lot of victims. You don't want to say, well, I wish her well. I knew her and she was great. You don't want to say these things. Also, people are pointing out, they're showing many of his videos where he was like at the club and he was dancing and he was kind of pointing. He was like saying to, Jeffrey, oh, take a look at hers and she cute and whatever. But people also forget the fact because, he did ban him from Mar-a-Lago after he hit on a teenage girl. So he was not allowed to go back to Mar-a-Lago. He also had, an interview where he said that he knows him and that, he likes his girls pretty young. And so people are saying all of these things. This is strange to me. It's strange to me because, we have these leaders that have these connections to people. And it's like, you don't know for sure, but you think. It's like, why would you be hanging out with someone that's like that? Well, maybe he knew, maybe he didn't know. And maybe when he knew, he got rid of them. But then the question becomes, well, why would he say things like, I wish her well, And now you got the lawyer, Dershowitz, who's another one that's in that list, who was Trump's lawyer as well, and Jeffrey's lawyer. And guess what he's doing? He's calling for Ghislaine to be pardoned. Can you believe this? Because she's a victim too. And, it's like, I don't really know. But I do think that these things that we, hear about, it doesn't line up. It's like, you're the president. Why do you wish somebody well? But that was also back then. Now, ironically, if you've been here long enough, you knew that when everybody thought that he was going to win by a landslide, I told you all, I said, nope, because I had that, weird coffin dream. Nope. And I know once I said that weird coffin dream, all of a sudden your head goes back to that Economist magazine cover where he's not there. That's not where I'm going with this, okay? Just so you know. I'm not going there with that. But he did sort of lose everything politically, it seemed. Although he then went on to say that, Biden's been gone for a long time and that it's auto pen and, he's a clone and he's got a body double, which now you have Elon saying the same thing about Donald Trump. Not the same person. You're not the same Trump. Are you cloned? What happened to the guy that loved me, that thought my company was great? The two of them, they're like, it just seems a little like we're talking about the world is at stake here. Can't you settle this behind closed doors? I guess now things are open to the public. And I think that this is going to go somewhere. He actually once called Jeffrey Epstein a terrific guy. Flip side of the coin, there are connections, I'm sure, that Elon has with celebrities like Kanye and others that probably, powerful people are going to be around other powerful people. A lot of powerful people are really horrible and monstrous. But today's D-Day, today's Eve. Here's a picture of something happening. The storm is here. It's time for a change. Now, this is where it gets freaky. This is where the show gets freaky, okay? So, a while ago, take a look at this a picture in the lower corner right there. You see that. Remember when his cyber truck was, do you remember when it was blown up right outside of the Trump Tower? You remember that? And I said, that doesn't look good for the relationship, right? I said, that's an omen. In fact, ironically enough, there were a lot of weird things that were going down at the time. Thank you very much for being a member, Prophet Bear. I appreciate that for 2 months. Oh, by the way, if you guys ever want to support the channel, you could do that too. You could become like a channel member. And then I see you in the live chat, you stand out, it's nice. You do things to, you get releases of videos quicker sometimes, stuff like that. All the ways you support the channel, very helpful, and I thank you. The best thing you could do really is as you're watching, hit like. If you watch me enough times and I've encouraged you, just like me, do that right away and then enjoy the content, because this is where it gets a little freaky. So back on 12/3, I did a little bit of a video. And there's the cover of it right there. You'll see I said live at 222. You hear it? You hear it now? This is where it gets a little weird because it brings you back to that test that I put out. PSYOP coming at 222, right? Okay, so here we go. At 2:22 p.m., why is President Donald Trump gone? 2025 speculation. Why God has his hand on our country. And guess what the speculation was that I had? Guess what it was? Well, look to the video I shared just a couple of days later. Same thing. The Judas kiss. Warning. I even titled it clever. Because I had a vibe there was going to be a big betrayal and I wanted to get everybody to buy an I Am a Witness shirt. That wasn't my motivation. But I said, witness says Trump may be betrayed. But I meant I see this coming. And I'm the witness. I was being clever with my title. Warning, witness says Trump may be betrayed. The bell has been rung, Crystal Fry and fam. Thank you for the super chat, Crystal. Appreciate that. Thank you for the comments, the likes, the shares, all the things you all do. I said the bell has been rung. Nothing can stop it. Nothing can stop it. New mind-blowing show just dropped. God is speaking through these events. And here we have the proof. The proof God was speaking through these little weird things. Now, I say this. Pay attention. Jesus said, he goes, you can tell how the weather's going to be tomorrow by looking at the sky. But can you tell where our country is going to be by looking at the posts on X or Facebook? Can you? Or Blue Sky or wherever you go? Or the advertisements from big companies like McDonald's. All of this stuff I know sounds a little goofy. But can you read the signs of the times? Because there have been signs very clearly. Look at my thumbnail, the Judas kiss. He was Person of the Year. And I started telling everybody, guess when I started telling them? For the show that was at 222, The day that we hear the big bomb that's dropped, I say the next huge psyop's coming in, 222. It was 22 weeks exactly. 22 weeks. Why is Trump gone? The Judas kiss. There you see the omen. You don't believe me? Okay. You're like, oh, Jacob, that's fine. That's fine. You could show me these things, and yes, you're right. But how about you just hear me say it for yourself? I put a little post out on X so that Cybertruck exploding. I mean, it was my word for it. You could believe me. Okay, so hang on. Let me get the volume up and let me make sure that I am over, and then just take a listen. Cybertruck exploding. I mean, it was like framed perfectly. You know, like if there was ever something to like make you say, oh my goodness, that's like an omen of doom, that would be the omen of doom. I mean, there's a lot of other sus stuff connected to it too before we get into breaking down the cover of this, new magazine. There's a lot of sus stuff. He rang the Wall Street bell. This was a big deal. Why was this a big deal? Because if you look at the picture of it, and I covered this in one of my shows, it kind of looked like Hang on one second. I got to play that again. I want you to listen to this Cybertruck exploding from the beginning. Okay? Cybertruck exploding. I mean, it was like framed perfectly. Like if there was ever something to like make you say, oh my goodness, that's like an omen of doom, that would be the omen of doom. I mean, there's a lot of other sus stuff connected to it too before we get into breaking down the cover of this, new magazine. There's a lot of sus stuff. He rang the Wall Street bell. This was a big deal. Why was this a big deal? Because if you look at the picture of it, and I covered this in one of my shows, it kind of looked like, the Last Supper. So I put out this little post where I started talking about, will he be betrayed? Is he going to be betrayed? The odds, right? This is what I call, if you're new, I call them Quinky Dinky Deuce. And on this channel, we have a lot of them, right? We got a lot of them. You would think that more people would take notice and would maybe, get excited and say, okay, God's in charge here. But you know what happens at the Last Supper? Friday the 13th. Betrayed by a kiss. Yeah. It's all connected. Everything's connected. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, this is all speculation. It's meant for entertainment purposes, but as well as I want you to question things. I want you to look down the road a little bit. I want you to not be so easily triggered and tricked. I mean, come on. 22. To me, I just, these things, they pop up. They happen again and again and again. I don't know. I hope that they encourage you. But that's not all. It gets a little freakier. Are you ready for this? Okay. You know who Steve Bannon is? Because I want to show you this cover, okay? Take a look at the cover where Trump is missing. Who's that over there? Next to Elon, who's right up on top. Notice Trump is missing, but Elon's got the biggest head. I pointed that out in the show. And I found it to be quite interesting because I thought to myself, I wonder if Elon ends up running everything, Not that I'm saying that that's going to happen. In fact, I'm hoping that other things happen. I'm hoping that they work this whole thing out very, very quickly. But you see right next to him is Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon has not been a fan of Mr. Elon Musk. Not for a while, my friends. Not for a while. He has been very, very... He said that he's like a snake and he's this. And Bannon said some really mean things about the guy who, and I agree with him on this one, he says, without me, Trump would not have won the election. He's right because of, Twitter and the release of stuff, and it made things a little bit easier. That being said, without God, sorry, Elon, none of it would have been possible. Because God puts the people where he wants to put them and takes them where he wants to take them. And I just sit here and I put it out there. Do you remember when Vivek Ramaswamy, see him? He's off to the left of the picture. I got a little test out there about Vivek. I bet you he comes and he starts kind of maybe siding or getting involved. Either he's going to side with the president or he's going to side with Elon. One of the two, he's going to get involved in this hot mess that is going on. I just got a vibe. But remember when he was part of Doge? You remember? Remember he was part of Doge? And he said how lazy we were and terrible this and terrible that, and it was all about those visas. Well, I don't know if you remember correctly, but I said that MAGA versus MAGA, it would be dark MAGA versus MAGA. Let me blow this up so you can actually just see my thumbnail so you get what I'm saying. MAGA versus MAGA. There's a lot that can be said in a thumbnail, and that video was how long ago? Good grief, that was back in December of 2024. That was when Vivek was still working with Doge, and he was just kind of jumping on board, and he had everything. I didn't like what he said. I didn't like what Vivek said. I didn't like Ramaswamy, right? I didn't like him. I didn't like what he said. So I put this little test out there, an old test about him. I said, Vivek finds what happened yesterday funny. He wrote, you'll see December 27th. He says, all right, back to work today. Vivek finds what happened yesterday funny. He said Americans celebrate mediocrity. Meanwhile, he celebrated and pumped up with his mother's help and profited from a drug that never worked, and many believed in his vision were hurt by it, while Vivek profited big time. Did he know it was snake oil he was selling? Did he care? Back to work, he says. Let's test that. Billionaires in charge of hiring and firing is one thing. Unscrupulous leaders with questionable business dealings who also laugh after mocking hardworking Americans is another. Let's test Vivek back to work theory, shall we? Things can change. 3 weeks, 3 days later, his departure is announced on Doge. How about them apples? 33. Yeah, test complete. Vivek Ramaswamy will not be back to work with Doge as I felt. News of his departure comes exactly 3 weeks, 3 days, 33. All these numbers, the 1-1, the 2-2, 3. If there was never proof that I believe that we could be in some kind of simulation and we're in a coded reality, who knows? Hey, guess who else I thought got a little too big for his britches? I did. I was really worried at the time because I was worried my wife was going to lose a job because she's a teacher, and I was just worried because, her district is a very poor district, and it was a lot. We're in New York, so of course you worry that, New York's going to get the brunt because Hochul is not great, Neither was Cuomo, who I put a test out, said he'd be going, and he went. Why do I say these things? Is it like, oh, how great I am? No. It's just the fact that, our faith can create reality. And if you're in the right place and people are corrupt, as my little hashtag says, or doing the wrong thing, God will intervene. It happens. There's nothing, we can't do anything but what God wants. I just did a whole show about God's will yesterday. Do we have free will or do we have God's will? Yesterday. Watch that video. Well, I put a little post out about Elon too. I said, fun firing Americans, Doge about to change leadership, how much U.S. tax dollars goes into his business ventures. Wouldn't it be sad and ironic if your tax money funded Skynet that controls you? I said, test, humility is needed. And then, man, here we were, 3 months, 3 days later, and he departs. But forget about that. Do you remember when I said, and you look at a thumbnail long before he was with Doge, baptism of the fired. And there's the Doge father. And that's a video that I did on the left where he was the godfather, pushing Trump into his place. And then here we are, and it's like everybody, humble pie. Humble pie. Everybody's got egg on their face right now. If we all just kind of tried to do the will of God and didn't do foolish things, I think we'd be doing much better. I think that if we loved people and we tried harder, I think we'd be doing much, much, much better. Do you know, according to Thursday's report, Bannon, who's on that Economist magazine cover, he says there's no way that Trump's coming back. That Elon's coming back from calling for his impeachment. He's a strategist who said, he told the Times that he's convinced the Musk that Elon's immigration status should be scrutinized. He said some crazy things. He said, you must do an executive order and take over SpaceX immediately. All of these things, all this knee-jerk carnal reaction, and guess who ends up really with the consequences? Us. We don't want the most powerful people in the world fighting. That doesn't benefit anybody. Doesn't benefit me. It doesn't benefit you. What we want is hearts changed. Oh, how I wish that they could watch this show. I wish that they could watch it. Because, you think to yourself, if you only watched, maybe you'd stay out, you wouldn't stumble. When you're being given advice, you wouldn't stumble. I always say, be the hero, do the right thing by the people. This is the day that we're in. You got to do the right thing. That goes for leadership too. If people aren't going to do the right thing, you're going to see turmoil and trouble. Who do you think puts it in the heart of people to have turmoil and trouble? I mean, that huge bomb that was dropped from Elon, and then the huge threat that was dropped from Trump. Both of those things, they weren't coming from a place, in my opinion, of peace, of compassion, of love, of for the greater good. It both seemed very, very, it's all about me and my hurt feelings. You hurt my feelings, I hurt because you hurt my feelings, so I'm going to hurt you. That's what it seems like to me. Dark MAGA versus MAGA. Oh, which, by the way, Dark MAGA, I even coined that. Remember when MAGA was around? I told everybody, take a look, 1026. I reminded everybody when Dark MAGA became an actual thing, 114 weeks before Trump embraced Dark MAGA, I thought it would be a thing. In Sanskrit, it means magic. In priest of the sun. In Hindu, it's a priest. In Japan, it's confusion. In the Bible, it's magician. Of course, we know Make America Great. In Satanism, it's the highest form. But does Dark MAGA sound spooky to you? Well, on 8/20/22, I said, MAGA means witch in Latin, highest rank in Church Satan. Look it up. Time for a new slogan. Unless it's on purpose, which would be weird. And Dark MAGA really sounds spooky now, don't you think? And then Dark MAGA becomes a thing. It's wild. It's wild. Sorcerers are like a real thing. People. They cast spells. They use magic. What is a spell? What is a spell? Speaking things. There's power in your words. This is why I've tempered my words. The older I've gotten, the more I've done shows and I've said something, and then all of a sudden I'll see it and I'm like, oh, I better be careful. I better be careful. Better be careful. Better be careful what I say. You don't want to say the worst thing. I don't want to say the worst thing. Dark MAGA. There's a lot of symbolism. This has been going on a long time. Do you remember the most transparent in history administration released the files that were the most redacted? Do you remember that? Do you remember how all the influencers had like two hats? Do you remember when Elon was wearing two hats? He was wearing like the Dark MAGA and the MAGA hat. And the Dark MAGA was on top of the MAGA hat. Well, they were walking out. If you look, I even put a post out about this on February 27th. I said Dark MAGA on top of the original MAGA in front of the words, the most transparent administration in history. It's wild. So wild that, you have J.D. Vance. You all know J.D. Vance, vice president, right? He is he's kind of a big fan of crypto and that whole crew. But he does say that he's sticking. He's sticking with his partner, Trump. He's sticking with him. He's not messing around. He's like, this man is good. This man is the one. This is a terrible time that we're in right now, and it's spooky that so many people are finding it comical. And maybe it is. But a lot of people are like, everybody's like, are you waking up yet? I mean, there is a possibility this could be a scam. It could all be a thing, a distraction to get everybody away from talking about Palantir. But yet, everybody's talking about Palantir. We knew that the social credit system was coming a long, long time ago, right? I've been saying this for how long? I said, don't be surprised, right? I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying if people are not going to behave and they're not going to be cordial and do the right, you're going to be tracked and you're going to be persecuted if you're not doing the right thing. This is when the beast makes war with the harlot system. It's in scripture. But who put the beast up to it? God did. God put it into the heart of the beast to attack the harlot system. This is a no-nonsense time to be alive, my friends. This is why I've been saying for so long, get your house together. But it's great if you get your house together. Two sets of individuals rise up at the judgment. This is the judgment. We're in these days. Begins at the house of the Lord. Two sets of individuals. Those that go on to everlasting reward and those that go on to condemnation. Now, here is when he was ringing the bell. I don't know if you remember the video I did on that, but it was a very interesting video. It really was. Because if you take a look at the Time magazine one, and you look at right beneath it, the Last Supper, I mean, it looks pretty, pretty much like the same thing. It looks very much like the Last Supper to me. I don't know, this was the vibe that I got. And so I put it out. Now, what's weirder is that, and this is really weird too, because I thought to myself, I did a video where I dressed Donald Trump up as the Last Supper, like as if it was all like a wrestling show, and I put The Undertaker behind him. The reason I did this was because when Trump was coming back on the campaign trail back in like 2000 whatever, he would enter the arenas with The Undertaker's gong. Yeah. So there you go. You'll see that 2 years, 10 months, 3 weeks, 3 days earlier from when he rang the bell on Wall Street, I did a whole show about him ringing the bell and about him possibly being betrayed. All the way back there. Now, everybody's making jokes about Elon and Trump wrestling. In fact, the guy from MySpace, you know him, Tom Anderson, who like never posts, hasn't posted in like 4 years. Every once in a while will retweet something, maybe every 6 months or something. He returns with a grok-made image of wrestling. I know a little something about wrestling. You know that. And I've been talking about WrestleMania and how these things play out. Okay? A while back, there was a WrestleMania where they had this match. It was called the hair versus hair match. And it was Vincent Kennedy McMahon against Donald Trump. Donald Trump had a wrestler, and Vincent Kennedy McMahon had a wrestler. His wrestler was Umaga. So Vince McMahon had Umaga, Umaga, and then you had Donald Trump who had Bobby Kennedy. It was very interesting. The whole thing was very interesting. And what ends up happening is Donald Trump and Bobby Kennedy end up winning the match, but Vince McMahon with Umaga, who kind of looked, really spooky if you ever saw the character, and he passed away. That whole family was beautiful. I loved Rikishi. He was I was his writer. He was such a great guy. I worked, by the way, if you don't know this, I worked for the WWE when it was WWF between 99 and 2001 until they fired me. I didn't make a whole lot of money, but I'll tell you, when I was there, for whatever reason, it was very strange. It was just me and one other writer for those years, and God really blessed me to put me in that position with these people. I had a feeling that one day Vince would lose his company, and even wrote it into the show many times. So these people, they know a little something about putting on a show. And it is all theatrics. And even Logan Paul is calling for the two of them to have a wrestling match. But here's weird. That match that went down was a hair versus hair match. A hair versus hair match. On the show, we talk a lot about hair. Burnt hair, Elon's cologne. Hair being symbolic of carnality, acting as carnal as you can, because the hair is it's putting effort into your own strength. The more hair you have in the world, the stronger you are. Like Samson has the long hair. It's all about your effort and your vein. They had a hair versus hair match in front of the world. Just the other day, I saw Elon's child, the one that's at the center of the controversy, who's long hair and showing everyone how feminine. And the whole thing just is sad to me, because families, he has so many children, but was whipping the hair around, and I couldn't think that this wasn't significant. I'm looking at this the night that this goes down with Elon and Donald Trump, and then I think back to when Donald Trump was walking in on his trip with the UAE and Saudi Arabia and that group, and I don't think it was Oman or somewhere, but they were whipping their hair around. They were doing a hair dance for him. I said, oh my goodness, if this is a hair versus hair match, Donald Trump ends up walking away with Kennedy, and they're okay, but Vince McMahon, they're all in on it together somehow, right? They all kind of work together. Ultimately, I believe this will all work out. Gets his hair shaved. Gets a big haircut. Now, in finance, I don't know if you know what a haircut means. It means you lose a lot of money. You're getting a haircut, right? And now Trump's threatening to cut this and to cut that. And I'm hoping that even by the time this show airs, I mean, not airs, but by the time that it goes off the air, which, by the way, I hope a lot of you have smashed the like and are, going to share it around. I hope that there's already some progress towards peace. That's what needs to happen. They need to make peace. This doesn't go well if they don't. But the question becomes, who does it go well for? I mean, does Elon have like an army of robots that we're not aware of? He has access to, what many consider to be today's version of Skynet, all the satellites he has got all of these contracts. I don't know how you cut them. I don't know how you cut funding to these programs that are so instrumental right now, that are so big. But probably just words, probably just a hair versus hair match. This is what I'm going to do to you because you hurt my feelings. As opposed to, hey, let's work this out, instead of slinging mud at each other. Him saying that he's got issues and he's lost his mind and stuff like this. Elon is younger. Now look, he's like almost my age. We know that he's probably thousands of years much, older. He's probably been around for a while. They're probably both time travelers for all we know, right? And maybe this is all coded into reality for a while. Is he going to be betrayed? Is he going to be betrayed? He's betrayed. This is a betrayal. This is a huge betrayal. 22 weeks earlier? It's a huge betrayal. Now, here's weird, okay? So now they're calling for something that I said, and I've told you all, is going to happen. We're not going to see the two-party system anymore, because why? Why do we need to carry on with the smoke and the mirrors? We're already moving towards a day where things are going to be a lot more decisive. It's not going to take as long for things to get done. You look at what's going on right now with ICE, okay? They're showing you, I just did a video about this as well. They're showing you, we're not messing around. We're going to come and we're going to grab the sous chef or the dishwasher or the waitress or the waiter or the bartender. We're going to grab them with full tactical gear and night vision goggles in broad daylight while you're having lunch with your children. This is the day we're in. They're not messing around. And that's why they shouldn't be messing around. You got to get on the same page. You want things to be calm. Now, he does have some allies, Elon, right now, and Trump has some allies too. It really is like dark MAGA versus MAGA. It's like the snake eating itself. It's so sad for me to see. But I said this two-party system's got to go. And not that I think it should go. I think that there should be many people, you go to any party you want. I personally don't partake. I kind of get an idea of what I think's going to happen. I pray and I hope. Yeah, I've done a lot of praying about this show. Because these characters, these people, these world rulers, these pharaohs of today that are in charge, these kings, I talk about them so often, and I look into their psyche, and I think about them so much, and I realize how connected, they are to God. Meaning, even if they don't believe in God, God placed them there for a great purpose. So when we see the two of them going head to head, I can only think it's not going to end well for one of them if things don't stop. And we can't find, this is why we need to pray that this becomes a thing and encourage peace and not choose a side. All right? Don't choose dark MAGA over MAGA or MAGA. Well, I mean, you could do whatever you want, but I think you'd be foolish to do that as opposed to thinking, let's choose what God ordains, because it's going to happen regardless. The people that don't do the will of God, they get dragged that way. There's a passage, I forgot who said it. It's a famous expression. It says, destiny will get you, but you're going to either go to destiny and you're going to go and it's going to be a great reward, or destiny is going to drag you there, kicking and screaming. I don't think that that's exactly the quote, but you get my point. One way or another, come hell or high water, God's will is going to be done. What's God's will? Heaven on earth. Purpose, peace, no more, misery and fear, is setting the debt slaves free. This is what it is. It's all about Kill Bill. The bill that people would say could be our Social Security number that we're given. The debt, the bill. That's what a bill is. Who's going to pay the bill? The bill. Kill it. This is what he wants, because they have this 1,000-page document, and in it there are a lot of things. Now, I haven't read it, and I guarantee all the people that voted for it, all of them, probably did not read it. They couldn't read it, 1,000 pages in the amount of time. Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the ones that she talked about it. She said, I voted for it and I feel bad now because it gives AI, like 10 years of just unfettered restraint. It just could do whatever. It has no restraint. It's unfettered. Like John Fetterman. He's going to probably be one of the guys that's really going to call for that uni-party, that one party. Elon just put out a post. He just put out a post about it. He put out a little, he's like, is it time to create a new political party? A lot of people like yes, because of the 80% that are in the middle. That's the thing. There's so many of the people that really just are more middle leaning, can kind of understand both sides and don't want to fight over things, especially things like this, But here we are, a long time ago, back in 2024, I, even before 2024, I said, unity is going to be the word. We're going to be going to a new one-party system en route. And then, there we heard Kennedy came up with it a little bit later. He started calling it the uni-party. And now this is all we can, really kind of hear about. You see the White House press secretary? She left the Democratic Party. Is this sinking in yet to you? People switching sides. Tulsi went from being a Democrat to... Oh, and who said that was going to happen again? I did. Who said Wonder Woman was going to go with Batman? I did. And then here we are. Here we are. I'm concerned. I'm concerned about this. I'm concerned about them both. People were like, why would you be concerned about these people that have done such terrible harm? Maybe they have. I don't know. I just know that I can do this show and speak something that I believe to be true. And so far, so good. I'm not going to be arrested. So far, so good. I want what God wants. You know, and when that becomes a problem, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's not going to be a problem for me. I mean, it may stink. Some things that we have to go through, it may stink. But one-party system, it's en route. It's coming. Now, do you remember I had a video that went very, very viral? It was before Trump, and the video was about how he was going to get back on the throne. The whole video was called "This Perm Prophecy is Huge," and it went viral, okay? Which is something that I would love to have more of my videos do. The only way this happens is if people like you, even if you've never done it before, share it. You just click that, it's free. Share it around, you know? And if you don't like this video, share a video that you did like and say, hey, check out the channel. But it went viral. Now, here's wild, is that just recently, I revisited that video with a video I titled, This Worm Blood Moon Prophecy is What You've Been Waiting For. Time to Face Your Shadow. Dark MAGA, time to face your shadow. The yin and the yang, right? The serious and the silly. I don't know. The two of them, they're like Artemis and Apollo. Artemis, the moon god, Apollo, the sun god. Moon doesn't create light, the sun creates light. It's a big deal with this. Well, in this video, you'll see in the thumbnail there, you'll see it says the worm has turned. Now, I'm going to blow this up so you can just take a look at this, because this is kind of freaky. Okay? I want you to just look at the thumbnail. And in the video, I didn't clip anything from it. In the video, I explained, let me move this down here. All right, here we go. Boom. I explained how when they were catching Starship with the chopsticks, that's to the right-hand side of the screen, I thought it looked a lot like a gallows. So I put a gallows right next to it. Now, in the story of Esther, there's the king, and then there's the guy that the king puts in charge of basically the kingdom. Gives him the keys to the kingdom, basically. Gives him his, believe it was his signet ring or something. And he basically just, he did what he wanted to do. And he was very efficient at his job, Hammond. He didn't really care too much if what he had planned, people would get, if they were going to slow the plans that he had, they were going to go out of the way. And one of the things that had to happen was he needed to be honored. And there was this one guy named Mordecai, who is Esther's, they call him his uncle or his caregiver. Esther, just so you know, was a Jewish girl who kind of hid the fact that she was Jewish and ended up in the harem of brides and wives of King Ahasuerus, sort of like the king's favorite. Esther's a great book. They read it every year on Purim. It's called the Megillah. It's a great book. You should read it. Or watch that video on Purim. But what ends up happening is the guy that was put in charge by the king to do all of this stuff in the world, he was up to a little no good. He had a problem with the Jews, and he made plans to basically put them all to death. First, he wanted to put to death was Mordecai, and he even built the gallows for him to hang on. Now, why am I saying this story? Because when I saw this, and I thought to myself, oh my God, that looks like a gallows. And in the video, I was like, I really hope that they're both doing things the right way, up and up. Because who knows who the king is in this situation? Is it Elon? Is he the king? I mean, in the thumbnail, at the time, they had that cover for Trump. Or is it Trump? But if one of them, isn't doing right, correction waits for those that don't repent of it. But repenting of it is important. So I get this vibe that this needs to end, because it could get really ugly. It could get really ugly. And I don't want to see it get like that. I want to see good things happen. And I believe that, if God has something planned, if you, like Abraham, would say to God, would you spare Sodom and Gomorrah if there were 50 righteous? How about 25 or whatever it is? Give me 10. What about 5? We can plead upon the Lord to instill upon their hearts to make peace. Why am I making such a big deal out of this? Because this is a big deal. I feel like this is a big deal. I was worried that this was going to happen. I did a whole video in the Salt Cave about somebody's getting pegged. Remember that in the Salt Cave? Where I talked about St. Patrick's portal? I feel like we're at a very crucial, critical time. The fact that, I have all these videos that just you could put them one after the other together. Now, I was praying about, is this perm thing a deal? Like, is this a hair versus hair match? A deal. Is this like the story of perm playing out? Is there a hangman character? A character who's going to be like, we'll say like hung. That doesn't mean put to death or whatever. Because God forbid, God forbid anybody's put to death. We want to see peace. We want to see joy. We want to see people come together. But I was talking to the Donut very early this morning. I don't know if you've seen the Donut. He put out like a really cool video. You should check out his channel. If not, it's Alex is the Real Donut on YouTube. He's a good guy, a friend of mine. Love the guy. Talk to him now and then. And I reached out to him out of the blue, and I asked him, I said, well, maybe you can give me some confirmation on something, because I didn't really know if I should even include this whole thing with perm. Because I have concerns if this is something that, is true. And as I'm talking to him and I tell him about this, he goes, oh my God, Jacob, they made Elon the hangman on the Drudge Report today. So that's him upside down. That's the tarot card for the hangman. It's like a big thing, I guess, in occult circles. You get to ask the Donut. That's a weird coincidence, It's a weird coincidence. And then I start feeling like, there's a story. I don't know if you know who Balaam is. He was a Gentile prophet. Wasn't like the best prophet, but he was a prophet. Spoke on God's behalf. He only wanted to do God's will, but he was easily tricked, and he was always wanted, to have a little more, nice things around the house, I guess. I don't know. He was always like that. I always pray. I'm like, please don't let me be like Balaam. His donkey kept him from doing something, from hurting himself. And he was upset with the donkey. Shouldn't have been upset with the donkey. But Balaam was called to a great king, because a king who had power over a certain amount, there was another guy that came up, another army that was just released, Israel, who was being, they were being given the promised land. They came encroaching on the land. And so Balak knew that this Gentile prophet named Balaam, who had a lot of great insight, would reach out to him and would be like, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you get God to get rid of this army? And every time he was offered money and he couldn't do it. He wanted to, he probably wanted to, but he couldn't do it because he knew that he could only do what God wanted him to do. So time and time again, he said, look, I'm going to bless those that bless Israel. I'm going to curse those that curse Israel. And when I say Israel, I mean like all of you and me, the Israelites, because these are lost tribes. They're not the people that are just in a literal land. It's not a literal land. It's a people, and we're scattered all over. You are Israelites. I'm an Israelite. This is who we are. We are God's children, and we are grafted in through his son. We become co-heirs. But at first, we feel like slaves, according to the book of Galatians. The slave, this is Galatians 3-4, he's under tutors and governors until the time that's appointed. He thinks that he's a slave, but he doesn't know that he's Lord of everything, meaning that his thoughts can create, that God has put him over this realm. That if you say to the sycamore tree, be thou cast into the sea, it'll be cast into the sea. If you say, maybe we're going to see peace come between these two instead of it gets out of control, maybe that could happen too. But Balaam he warned him. And every time God was like, you tell Balak, this is what God has done. This is what God has wrought. God is doing this. You can't come against what God is doing. It's just cloudy. It gets cloudy as to when you look at the characters that God uses, because it just doesn't make a lot of, sense when you're looking at people from a righteous standpoint, right? Like, how many of you have been on, a trafficker's plane? How many of you have partied with terrible people? I'm not that guy. I don't know. All right, listen, I heard the audio wasn't so great on this one. I apologize. I do the best that I can. I hope that all of you enjoyed the show. I hope that you got something out of it. I hope that you can pray and think about these things. And will you do me a favor? Will you share it around? Tell your friends. Get yourself some of the merch in the description of the video below. You can do that. Get yourself a copy of The Calling. I haven't talked about my novel in a while. This is an important book. It's a great book. If you've never read a novel, get this book. You will read it. You'll like it. It's that good. It's on Amazon. It's under The Calling, Jacob Israel. You can get yourself a copy. Love others. Love each other. Don't get into heated debate, and don't get divided. Let's try to bring people together. Let's not be wedges. Saying, hey, I told you so, or hey, this person's bad, or this person's bad. Let's do the right thing. All right? All right. I love each and every one of you. Let me know if you like this show in the comments section. And I apologize if I had an audio issue. Thank you, T-Loves. Good to see you in the live chat. Thank you for the super chat. Lisa Gordon's here. Francis is here. Watchman's here. Nathan's here. Christendom Free Soul Hippie's here. Rachel's here. Skywalker's got a lot of people here. Got a lot of people. There should be a lot of likes. If you can get me to 1,000 likes like right away, do you know what happens? The video does well. It's that easy. Just click it. And thank you, Sheila. I appreciate it. Can I talk to you about a recurring dream? Well, Shella, is it Sheila? No, Shella. Shella Clemens. Not right now, Shella. But you can always email me. Get on Patreon. That's another thing you can do. You can become a free member there. There's $1, $5, $20. We do Zoom. That's another way you can support the channel. I'm like really supported by you. YouTube it's not as good as it used to be. That's for sure. Especially when you don't have a channel that has more and more subs coming. And the only way that happens is if more and more people watch it. And then the only way if that happens is if you all help. So